Welcome to the Beasts of the NFC East podcast, and I am depressed. No, I'm just kidding. My name is Sean Gnitzcavich, and I'm here with my co-host Jeremy Goode. Oh, Jeremy Goode, I'm scared to ask, but Jeremy Goode, what's good?
The NFL's back, and that's good. I think football. You have football on Saturday with college. You have football now on Sunday with the NFL, and Thursday and Monday. The NFL has just capitalized on every day of the week, basically, which I think it's a little much. But regardless, football's back. Professional football's back. Not the highest level yet. I think there was some sloppiness with every team, but we'll get into that. But
Yeah.
it's just good. It's just good to be in early September, Sean, and to see your team go out there, compete. And you'll get into that. I'll get into that. We'll all get into that.
Yeah.
But it's just exciting. Great time of the year.
Great time of the year. You know what, man? I got some pumpkin beers. Didn't even get to drinking them because I said I wasn't going to drink until the Giants scored a touchdown. Guess what, man? I did have to drink eventually, but it was bourbon. And it was quite a lot of it to deal with the Giants' disastrous start to the season. We'll get into that, but we're going to recap all of the Week 1 games for every NFC East team in chronological order. We'll get into how there's things to be excited for some things, some things to be worried about based on the performances, and how some teams just look like a complete dumpster fire, i.e. the New York Football Giants. And you will maybe see me break down over here, but also it's like, I had hopes, but it just seems like it's just back to the same old. So I'm deflated, but I'm not as angry. I'm just kind of just deflated.
You've seen this before.
I've seen it before, and to start the season, I said it was a must-win game. It was a must-win game just for hopes on the season, but it was at least a must-perform game for hopes of the season. And it was, but we'll get into it. But Daniel Jones throwing more pick sixes than he has touchdowns since he's been signed to that huge contract. It was just so telling. But let's get started with the first game. Philadelphia Eagles, your Philadelphia Eagles win in a very close one, 34-29 in Brazil. Jeremy, I will let you take it away.
Yes, great game. Well, decent game, I think, for both teams. Two very good teams, in my opinion. Had to travel 10 hours south to go to Brazil, which I don't know how I feel. I think the field, let's just start with the field. I think the field condition was poor, didn't help either team. I think it's silly for the NFL to experiment with these kind of things without having proper field precautions, whatever, down protocols.
It happened to that Mexico game that they had to delay too. Remember the field?
Correct. It happens to all these soccer because I think TJ Watt was saying, not TJ, JJ Watt was saying they're used to 150-pound soccer players running around the field and not linemen kicking up. But again, whatever. That was unfortunate. I get the NFL wants to grow its brand to places like Brazil. Okay. The product shouldn't suffer because of that. So you saw a little sloppiness, miscommunications, missed tackles here or there. But, I think we saw what we were going to expect. Two highly talented offenses going at it, smashing the over, obviously, and just putting together a lot of good drives, a lot of touchdowns, more field goals than I thought. Defenses held pretty strong, and sometimes the offensive had to settle for a field goal. But good game overall, sloppy week 1, but the Eagles covered. They were able to come out on top. I think they were the better team in this game, and I think they let Green Bay back in it more than they should have. I think the Eagles outplayed Green Bay, but, you got to put away your opponent when you do, and they sort of let him back in. Jalen Hurts, iffy game from him. I thought that he had some good plays. He's just a very weird quarterback because he had some very great plays, some plays that a lot of people aren't able to make, and then he had some absolutely bozo bad plays that anybody can make, but a lot of people don't make because they're just so bad that they wouldn't even think about throwing across your body in the end zone across the field with 3 defenders. So
that was a good interception. Wait, that was the Jair Alexander interception, correct? Or is that the no?
No, that one was bad too. That was the first one. The second one was in the end zone when the Eagles could have gone up at least 8, and Jalen just threw it in the end zone towards the end of the game. I think
Yeah.
fourth quarter.
Yeah,
And
that must have been the Jair one then, because Xavier
oh,
McKinney got the
maybe two.
first pick.
Oh yes. Sorry. You're right.
Yeah,
McKinney had the first, I think, and then
which
yep,
hurts.
correct.
It
Yep,
hurts that the
absolutely.
Giants' two big free agents to start off the season, the two big free agents that were like, we don't need them, they're replaceable. Xavier McKinney starts off the game with an interception, and obviously, I'm
Yes.
surprised you haven't even said it yet. But
Well,
this,
we
you
buried
you want to
we
say it?
buried
You
the
want to
lead a
say it?
little bit. Obviously, the team is led by Jalen Hurts, but thankfully, the Eagles pick up Saquon Barkley, picked up the team, 3
Yeah,
touchdowns, ran hard. Um, had the legs keep on churning towards the end. Eagles have a very weird thing where Sirianni abandons to run towards the end of the game. I don't get it. You can look at the touches and be like, well, he had 24, but just because he had 24 doesn't mean some of them were smart touches. There were touches that he could have had in between in the beginning of the fourth quarter that I think would have put the game away, and they didn't give him the ball. They did like 4 plays in a row where it was an empty backfield. I hate that. It's stupid. You're telling the defense you're not running the ball because there's no one in the backfield that you could even think about giving it to. Regardless, AJ was great. Devontae Smith was phenomenal. He was sort of the unsung hero too. He caught a few balls towards the end of the game to sort of
yeah,
clinch the game and put it away. Yeah, the offense looks great for the Eagles. Defense has they did well early on. They kept the Packers out of the end zone. I think red zone defense was great for them. Out of the end zone, settled for field goals. Other times they you know, Jaden Reed had a few big plays. I think some of that was field conditioning. Some of it was also just like the first 2 levels not doing anything to get to the quarterback between your defensive tackles and whatnot, and linebackers too. Um, Sloppy, but stuff to work towards. I think if you're the Eagles, you're happy you're getting out of there with a win. A lot of positives. None of them played in the preseason, which I've said I agree with, but you sort of have slow starts in the first 30 minutes of the game, in my opinion, for the offense. So if that's the price you pay to have a healthy team go into the season, I think it's worth it. They need to do better defensively against a team next week in Atlanta with Kirk Cousins, who isn't mobile and can't move off of that knee. We'll
mhm.
see if they can get some sacks. Obviously, Bryce Huff didn't do anything. Josh Sweat didn't have any sacks, but I thought he was good against the run. Um,
Zach
Zach
Bond,
Bond, yeah, good game
yeah,
for him. A lot of tackles. He
few
was,
sacks too. The only
yes,
sacks for the Eagles.
only sacks too. So he was great. I don't know if we'll be able to keep that up. We'll
Yeah,
see. We'll see if Devin White comes back. Uh, yeah, just guys I feel like I'm talking for a while, but just like Quinyon Mitchell,
mhm.
great game for a rookie. Like I can't remember the last time the Eagles had a rookie that they threw out there at an outside corner who played competently, who was aggressive, who didn't have any PIs, who didn't hold, who didn't do anything stupid. It was a breath of fresh air, and hopefully we get more of that going forward. Yeah, good
Yeah,
win, stuff to work on. Not perfect, but with everything at stake, with going all the way to Brazil, which I think I really do think that is a struggle for any team,
mhm.
and I think the Packers would agree too. Field condition, um, first game sloppiness, the refs calling all the flags. A lot of positives to take out, which is good. Obviously, you got to work on stuff, but that's what the long week's for. So, yeah, I think job done. It's hard to win in the NFL. You got to collect wins how you do, and this was a perfect example of that.
Yeah, I think too. I know that your defensive line kind of kept Josh Jacobs pretty bottled up in the first half. I think he had
Right.
like only 18 yards on like 10 carries in the first half, and then
Oh
the
yeah.
second half he exploded. I know because I was monitoring it the entire game because he's on my fantasy team. But
Yes.
he kind of he got that going towards the second half, and I
Yep.
wonder if that's just because your defensive line isn't used to playing, like you said, they're not playing the preseason, so maybe
Yeah.
that's something as the year develops. Hopefully, they can hold up the run and they don't get worn down in that second half and allow somebody like Josh Jacobs, who is a very qualified power horse runner,
Yeah.
to run it down your throat, as I said in the preview. Which I don't think he. I mean, he had an okay game, but it's not like he had some unreal game. Like you guys kept him in check, and
He made it interesting. He helped. He made it interesting. He kept it close. He kept
yeah,
it closer than it should have been. Second half wise, I think if the Eagles held him up even just a little better, there would have been like just a few more stops, less threat for Packers scoring. But several of those runs contributed to touchdowns and a late lead for the Packers too, at least in the third quarter. So he was good job in the first half. He's a tough player to defend against, but they certainly let their guards down a little bit in the second half against the run, and something they're going to have to pick up because their defensive line is pretty young. Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, they're the leaders, but they're not that old. I think they're missing, you used to have Fletcher Cox, but I think you're kind of missing that experience and age to be in the middle to defend the run. We'll see. It's a tall order, but they're going to have to, even though they're great, even though Jalen Carter is a great player, those guys are going to have to mature quickly if they want to prevent stuff from that happening again, because that could go the other way quickly, and so if that does keep on happening, they'll lose games.
Yeah, the Packers' offense is a great offense. They have so many different receiver threats. Like I said, Josh Jacobs is a great running back, but it is interesting seeing your Eagles defense not have that like dominant pass rush defense that we're so used to seeing. And obviously, you lose Hassan Reddick, you replace him with Bryce Huff. In this game didn't have as much production, but that's how the Steelers shocked the Falcons. And when you guys play them next week, I think, like you said, we'll get into that preview. But hopefully that'll change for you guys. Although I don't want it to, honestly. I want you guys to share in the misery that I'm feeling. But yeah, Saquon Barkley was by far the best running back in week one thus far. I mean, we have Breece Hall and Christian McCaffrey playing tonight, which prior to this recording. But yeah, it's sad to see. It's sad to see like the quotes. It's sad to see all of the memes. I mean, I think they brought up Saquon Barkley about like 10 times in the Giants game too. Like, it's like, come on, we know, we're aware. You don't have to bring it up. Right. Everybody who's watching knows. Like, if they're paying attention to this terrible Vikings Giants game, I think they're very aware of how great he performed. John Mara probably is suffering from extreme insomnia right now.
I was about to say he hasn't been sleeping for months.
Yeah,
I don't know why. I don't know about you, Sean, but like that should not have aired. That like.
That line, and we had like final say in the cut too, which was really
that's it. I'm glad you mentioned that because that's why it's so weird in my opinion. That not only just that line, but also Joe Shane saying like going through the process again. Like he sounds like intelligent, but like him talk like it's cool to see him talk through like the free agency. But then when he goes like, I can't pay Saquon because I'm paying Daniel Jones, like. I would not air that. Even if like so if it's like kind of right, like I get not like there's something to not paying running backs, but like when you're paying Daniel, like I don't know, I wouldn't air that stuff. I wouldn't put it in 4K.
I'm not gonna lie, Joe Shane. I feel like our first season, great playoffs, whatever. Joe Shane didn't even really do that. Like he inherited most of that from Gettleman, and Brian Daboll just was able to put it together. His draft classes have been underwhelming thus far. We'll see how we're one game into this class. I was really excited about this class. There's some positives, but I think listening to him and just kind of seeing him paying Daniel Jones, letting Saquon walk, like some of the moves that he made at the O-line, like those are moves that should have been made last year, not this year. Like this is him revisionist history, but still like the O-line I don't love. The Brian Burns, I mean, it was exciting. Like, I think it saved my hopes during free agency, but for what we paid for him, what we're paying him, what he hasn't actually really done, like, yes, he's had some good sacks, he's had decent pressures. He was kind of a non-factor in that Vikings game, which was, something to note. But before I get into it, because I could talk all about the Giants, we're still talking Eagles-Packers here. Anything else you really want to talk about? I know Devonta Smith had a really, had a good 7 receptions, 84 yards. I mean, you keep saying put some respect in Devonta. I respect Devonta,
Yes.
and I like how Jalen
Okay.
Hurts and Kellen Moore's game plan, like he spread the ball around. But if you really think about it, like, I mean, Dallas got her, he got like 4 receptions. But I mean, it seems like it was a balanced offense, balanced attack between
That's
AJ,
pretty
Saquon,
much
Devonta.
that was that was pretty much the talk when Nick Sirianni after the game was asked about the balanced offense, and he said like it's good. I'm glad I'm glad people are getting their touches, but like it's just the way like Green Bay played us. Like some games maybe they stuff the run, some games maybe they press on the wide receivers, and Saquon has to do more more takeover more so opposed to throwing the football. So it was balanced. We'll see how they can maintain it. I've always said if you're a professional, you're getting paid, and you have such an elite offense like we think this Eagles offense can be, the more talent you have around it, the more other teams just have to play you honestly. So you don't have to, the stats might not always be there for everybody, but you're always going to be moving the ball ultimately with the team itself. I'm glad, Dotson had 1 target, no catches. We'll see how this thing moves on as the weeks evolve, as they get a little more comfortable, more into it, I guess. So yeah, that was the balanced offense was nice. It'll be good for them to get back to the States and just play on Monday night next week.
It is nice that they have that break too after the travel.
Yes, I think that
very fortunate for you guys.
I agree. I think that any team that they force to go to Brazil, it should absolutely be a Thursday, Monday thing. But I'm glad. It's kind of weird that it was week 1 too. I don't know. But,
yeah, I thought that was kind of weird too. I mean, I guess there's no bye weeks week 1, so maybe to spread it out.
It works. I think that it definitely works from a planning, obviously. But yeah, just I don't know. I don't get it. But yeah, NFL is. I wonder like the impact it'll have like in Brazil going forward after this. We'll see. I don't know even how you measure that, but the NFL is making money. They're probably making a boatload of money out of that region going forward too, with jersey sales, viewership, whatnot. So good for them, I guess. Whatever.
That's the NFL, and like you said, Jalen Hurts looked sloppy, and I was before the Giants played, it's really easy to like criticize Jalen Hurts, but there is enough good. It was his first game playing, like he didn't play in the preseason, made some sloppy moves, but like you said, like he had a great game. He made good plays. He was also one of the factors in winning this game. So you'll take that. It didn't seem like last year where it seems like he was losing the game and then didn't really offer that much also as a positive while dealing with injury.
I think that's kind of the most furious thing about him, because it seems like he has everything to be a great quarterback, and I mean a truly great quarterback, be in the same tier as Mahomes, obviously underneath Mahomes, but in the same, be
like
great.
A top 5. Yeah.
Sure. And even top 3, and just his decision making. It's year 6. It just can't. I think year 6, either year 5 or year 6, but whatever. Just can't keep making the same stupid decisions it's just gotta stop. It was funny too, because like one of our beat reporters in Philadelphia was tracking his throws in preseason because he's a dork, and over the 200 throws or whatever, Jalen Hurts didn't throw an interception over camp, and everybody's excited. And then he finally threw one the last day of camp, actually. And he broke the records or whatever. And then it goes out. It's like, okay, great. And then you go out and you have 2 really dumb interceptions. It's just, the balance is just not there. But in every game, you wouldn't be like, well, he's getting out of the system. At least he can shake it off. You got the win. And it's like, it's true. And then he'll do it again the next week or 2 weeks. It's just like, it never seems like he truly gets it. That's the thing that I keep on telling people. It's like he doesn't seem to get it. He could get 80 to 85% of it, and then the last 15%, he'll just completely blow up on. And that could be enough to be at the end of the game and a close game for a loss. So I think we saw that a lot last year when the Eagles collapsed the last 7 or so weeks. So it's weird. It's weird to complain about, because I do think he has good clutch winning genes in him. And I do think he's very talented. And I know a lot of teams would love him as a quarterback. It's
Yeah.
just that missing. It's
Take
that
him.
missing piece where it's like, is this guy like? Is it like, is he good enough to give you 11, 12 and win a Super Bowl, or not win a Super Bowl? And I think that, a lot of times we're looking at it, it's like, I just don't think he might be good enough to win a Super Bowl. We'll see. But
I mean, hey,
God,
he almost did. He almost did.
he
And
almost did. He also had a perfect year that year, which is, yeah.
yeah.
So
Well,
yeah, it's a good point. Good
at
point.
least it appears that the ceiling is there. If he can eliminate these mistakes, like it didn't look as egregious as it did last season as your
Yeah,
season.
but even that fumble too early in the game,
Yeah,
where they
that's
had the
true. But that wasn't that a miscommunication with Jurgens?
sure, but it was. But when you have a quarterback who uh, can't play under center, that's what's going to happen. You
Mm.
know, you're always going to have there's always going to be that space. There's always going to be something. Uh, Literally yards in between you and the center. So like if you were able to play under center like most quarterbacks, maybe that stuff doesn't happen as much either. But you know, survive, advance. They did put up 34 points, and they probably should have finished put up even more, and even should have played a little better. So I think you take it. It's just,
Yeah, I think you take
Brazil,
it.
Brazil was a lot
Yeah.
emotionally, physically, travel wise. So that can't be understated. So good. Move on to week 2.
All right. Well, I'm ready to move on from week 2, but now I have to
Sure.
address the nightmare that I had to witness. Were we back in the New York groove? Yeah, we were back in a really bad New York groove. The New York Football Giants at home in their Century Reds with their 100 best players there in attendance, Lawrence Taylor, all the greats. We lose to Sam Darnold and the Minnesota Vikings 28-6. And another opening week without a touchdown. Daniel Jones didn't throw any touchdowns in preseason. The Giants didn't throw any touchdowns in preseason regardless.
Mm-hmm.
No touchdowns at all for us in week 1. Daniel Jones, like I said prior, has thrown more pick sixes to defenders than he's thrown touchdown passes since signing his massive contract, which I hope will be null coming into next season. Daniel Jones, his time is numbered. Brian Dable already announced he's starting next week. Fine. And next week is a really good opportunity because that Commanders defense, and we'll get into that, looks weak. It looks the weaknesses that are on paper showed up. Baker Mayfield had an MVP like all-time game against them.
Yes.
But Daniel Jones, oh my God, it just, first off, he looks scared. He looks like he can't connect. He's checking down to his safety net check down way too early, or he's trying to run and then runs himself into a sack in a collapsing pocket. Like, or he checks it down and he misses his check down. He's missing easy checkdowns to Wan'Dale Robinson. Theo Johnson, he missed like 3 times. Devin Singletary, he missed. He misses Tyrone Tracy in a little check down that he maybe could have caught. Malik Neighbors is getting frustrated. He's looking at Tyrone Tracy. What are you doing? Why aren't you catching this? Daniel Jones, I mean, it's and then I was looking at our O-line too, by the way, which the Vikings defensive line isn't like grade A, but with Brian Flores and all the sacks and like his scheme to design pressure and different sacks and whatnot and to confuse the offenses, well, it worked, but our offensive line did look the best it has in like 3 seasons. Like Andrew Thomas, no sacks. I actually have a list because Talking Giants, Bobby Skinner outlined it. I think that Greg Van Roten was the only offensive lineman to be credited with a sack. And then Daniel Jones was credited with 3 sacks to himself because he did. If you watch the game, like it wasn't somebody letting up an open rusher. It was Daniel Jones trying to manipulate, like move in the pocket and like walking into a sack. And it's miserable to watch. Like I was saying, like Drew Lock, he's sloppy, but at least he's explosive and it looks like he has confidence. You know, Daniel Jones just looks like a sad puppy. I don't care how cool his beard looks now, dude. He just seems shattered, you know. And Malik Neighbors, at least he was able to get it to Malik Neighbors. Malik Neighbors was open way more than he was targeted, and there was a lot of plays where if Daniel Jones just sees that, takes the risk on these man plays where they're all coming in with a blitz and it's man coverage of Malik Neighbors, he should be taking advantage of that. He shouldn't be scared and then like, oh well, you know what? Let me check down to Wandale and miss him. Like it was just miserable. Devin Singletary looked okay. I mean, there was no real pass threat. I mean, he averaged I think like 3.7 yards per carry, but he wasn't asked for explosive runs. He was asked for this change of pace. I think Brian Daboll was incredibly unimpressive in his first game officially calling the offense.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that Andrew Van Ginkel pick six was disastrous, but that play call was disastrous. Like,
Yep.
and Andrew Van Ginkel said in the post-game interview, like, yeah, as soon as I saw that alignment, you see Wan'Dale Robinson behind a bunch, like, it's obviously a screen.
Yep.
I saw it. Andrew Van Ginkel's like, okay, bam, just Daniel Jones catches, throws. That was so quick that, like, I mean, I guess Daniel Jones could have keyed in on Van Ginkel a little bit, but the play call itself was just disastrous. And then the second interception to Harrison Smith, I was watching that play, and as I'm watching the play, there's three defenders in Darius Slayton's vicinity. And Malik Neighbors has one guy like 3 yards away from him. And I don't know. Coral just came in here. I don't know what this is about. But Malik Neighbors has one guy like 3 yards within his vicinity. Wan'Dale Robinson is pretty open himself. Like, it's just, you're shooting yourself in the foot. The fact that, like, the Giants get the ball to receive, it was like a 3-and-out, whatever. And then we get a chance. Andrew Phillips, who looked pretty good, honestly. I wasn't like, there was nothing where I was like, Andrew Phillips looks like he's struggling. He looks like he's an issue. He had that nice forced fumble on that tackle of CJ Ham, I believe, or it was Ty Chandler. And then Bobby Okereke was there to scoop it up. We're right there in the red zone and we can't score. Like, come on. I mean, it's just the same old Giants. Like, you have to. You're at home. Like, you get this perfect opportunity after your offense just floundered. Like, you have to execute on those plays, man. Mm-hmm. It's miserable. I'm sorry. I'm ranting, but it's just.
Well, listen.
There was really nothing really redeeming. Like, I'm going to try to highlight. Like, Theo Johnson was getting open, dropped the ball.
Yep.
I think he only had one 15-yard catch in a seam route. But I mean, Daniel Jones missed him like 3 times when he was like wide open too. I do like that he's getting used a lot because I think that he will be great for us. Jalen Hyatt, I think that him and Brian Daboll had a falling out during the Texans game. I know he was pounding during that, and he played limited snaps.
It's like 4 or 5 snaps, right?
Yeah, he was like a complete non-factor. Weird. So I think Darius Slayton is. I don't know. Hopefully, we can factor in Jalen Hyatt. I don't care if he's being a little whiny about not getting enough playing time. Like, he's a weapon. He can be used in specific packages. You can sub Wan'Dale out and have Jalen Hyatt, Malik Neighbors, and Darius Slayton in like a speed package. You know, like I don't love it. I think as an offensive play caller, and like that's how Brian Daboll got his name. Like, you have to utilize your weapons. And Jalen Hyatt, even if he's not like an every down wide receiver, not a complete wide receiver, his skill set, there's a reason why we traded up in the draft to get Jalen Hyatt, you know, and especially when we're down, why are we punting the ball when we're down in the third quarter by like 2 touchdowns? Why are we punting the ball? You have to go for those plays.
Didn't get that. Yep.
Yeah. I mean, I don't care if we lose by 4 touchdowns. At least let's make it an effort and try to score a touchdown at home. This is a huge
what it's
game.
manageable too. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just, you know, and maybe build Daniel Jones's confidence if you're going to keep him as a starter going into next week. Like, go for it, you know. It was sad. Defensively, you know, Deonte Banks was tasked with a tall task of covering Justin Jefferson. There is one really explosive play where I feel like he was 3 yards behind Justin Jefferson. I didn't like that. On the touchdown play to Jefferson, I feel like Deonte Banks was draped around him, which is always the case. I feel like he's always draped, but he just can't get that pass deflection, you know? And
in his defense, that throw was absolutely rocketed for the touchdown. Now, in my opinion, that's what it had to take. It had to take Sam Darnold throwing that 1,000 miles per hour because it's Sam Darnold after all to get. So, like, tough play. I get it. But there was, I thought the Giants kind of like, in a way, played it well. It's just, when you throw it that hard and that close, you have Jetta there. It's probably going to be a
Yeah.
touchdown ultimately.
But I mean, dude, Sam Darnold starting off the game 12 of 12, like perfection. Looking him, and it wasn't just all these tiny little checkdowns. Like he was passing the ball down the field to Justin Jefferson. I mean, I thought that we did a good job of limiting. I mean, Justin Jefferson had less than 60 yards, obviously the touchdown. Like I think we did a solid job of eliminating some of it. Aaron Jones towards the end of the game, I feel like just kind of took over. I don't know if that's because the Giants were giving up, but that's kind of where he got more explosive. Dexter Lawrence, as always, I think was the MVP of this game. He starts off with that nice sack in the beginning of the game, and then he has a QB hit that forced that interception to rookie Darius Muasau, which is weird.
Yes.
Micah McFadden was suited up, didn't play. Isaiah Simmons didn't play. Darius Muasau, who wasn't penciled in as a starter at all at starting linebacker all preseason, I'm pretty sure played the entirety of the linebacker 2 position, and it's not like he played amazing. He got that interception. Awesome. But like we drafted him to be a special teamer. Yeah.
Yeah.
It was a nice interception.
I was surprised he came down with it with the receiver. It looked like the sun was going to be in his eyes too. So it's sort of like you're trying to grab, but like you're trying. I was impressed, yeah. But yeah, obviously it was weird that, because of that his playing time, McFadden didn't get many snaps either.
That's weird, especially because he had such a great season last year.
Yeah.
I saw Adoree was played quite a bit. I think like on the starting roster, it was Cordell Flott, and Cordell Flott I saw was responsible for some of those, just wide open balls to Jordan Addison, and it just no bueno. But like I was alluding to too, Brian Burns was like a no factor. I mean, he got, he got like I think a pressure, a QB hit perhaps. Same with Kayvon Thibodeau. I think he had a pressure, a QB hit. He also had that really bad face mask where we should have had a 3 and out, and that could have kept us in the game. But that led to the touchdown drive, the 99-yard touchdown drive after an awesome special teams play. Like I don't even like that's. Sure. I think I was the most stoked. I think for Malik Neighbors had like a 25-yard catch and the special teams play, and the fact that that's my excitement. I'm waiting all season for football season, and it's a Malik Neighbors 25-yard catch and a special teams play at the 1, like a punt. A punt coverage play is what's getting me amped up. Like that is sad, man. It's just sad.
Yeah. Well, listen, I mean, I feel bad. I love when the Giants lose. I feel bad when you're upset. It doesn't make me feel good. Dude. If I can pull out some positives for the Giants watching the game, Neighbors looked good, got his feet wet in a good way, and he did. I think the fact that he was open as much as he was, good thing going forward. I feel like the defense was okay-ish,
Yeah. I mean, they were okay. I would say.
Right.
But there's nothing really impressive,
right?
Coverage-wise, like the fact that they held Justin Jefferson a little bit, only 200 passing yards, but it wasn't, like I said, the pass rush needs to be better. That'll help. Yep. And I think, Tyler Nubin actually played really good in like run support, even though he didn't have any big flashy plays. That was solid. I think Jason Pinnock made a few good plays, but there's nothing that showed out like against a Vikings team that I think that you could really take advantage of Sam Darnold. I was unimpressed to say the least. And the fact that the only sack came from Dexter Lawrence, who played like an all-pro. I mean, 6 QB pressures, like I said, multiple QB hits, the one that resulted in the interception. It's just one of the big things is that our D-line and all these people who don't really know the Giants are like, oh, well, their D-line looks good. You got Kayvon, that's a name. Brian Burns, that's a name. But they're names that are inconsistent. You see the sack numbers at the end of the season, but they need to be getting those pressures. Because as you see with the Cowboys, like I think Micah Parsons only had 1 sack, but he had like 6 pressures that led to other sacks. It helps the entire D-line perform. And the Giants just didn't have that.
That's what I was saying last week in terms of pressures. You're not always going to get to the quarterback, but if you get a pressure, have the quarterback throw off their back foot on the run in a difficult situation. You can make plays for other people on your defense. But also, it just seems like with the Giants, it all comes down to the quarterback. It sounds silly, but like last year and the years before, it's like bad quarterback play. They do what they can with Saquon Barkley, but ultimately teams can game plan for that, and Saquon can't lift the burden by all the bad quarterbacking play. And this year it's the same thing, but Devin Singletary obviously isn't Saquon Barkley, so you
No.
can't even like turn to Singletary to like pick up the pace a little bit and try to be competitive. It's just tough because if you're not throwing the ball well with Daniel Jones, okay, you can't really you can't run the ball with Singletary in that situation either because that's not
I mean, yeah, but he's averaging
the volume isn't there for him. So
yeah, he's.
yeah.
Let's see. I mean, he ran the ball 10 times for 37 yards, which also like, and Tyrone Tracy had a couple of, you couldn't get him going. Eric Gray couldn't really get him going. I mean, it's just, like that's not a good game plan. You have to have more of a balanced run attack too, in my opinion. And Devin Singletary just doesn't have that explosion. But to wrap things up with the New York Football Giants, Jeremy, my question to you is, you watched the game. You saw how miserable Daniel Jones is. It's been announced that he is a starter for the upcoming week.
Correct.
If he plays like this next week, do you think the Giants cut him right there? Because nobody sounds like they're backing him. Malik Neighbors doesn't sound like he's backing him.
Right.
Brian Dable before was always like, Daniel is a starter. He said he's a starter, but he doesn't sound completely bought in. What do you think, Jeremy?
Good question, Sean. And I'd love to hear your opinion after mine, of course. I think if you're next game it's tough because like just because he plays well next game, let's say, doesn't mean he's going to play well the next few games.
Yeah, because then it's the Browns and the Cowboys, and
right. So and then if the Cowboys are good like we think, and he doesn't play well against them, is that a knock on him or is that because the Cowboys are good? It's tough, like just a tough situation to be in. I guess if you're Dable, you have to consider it because I think he's competing for a job next year. So yeah, I would if he plays poorly next game, I'd consider it. The only thing that stinks is who do you go to in that case? Drew Lock.
I think Drew Lock. At least Drew Lock has the explode. I mean, we paid him that guaranteed money. The only reason why you'd go DeVito is because DeVito knows the system more. He's been in the Dable system for second year, but I mean, I think Drew Lock probably offers you the highest ceiling, and it almost seems like Brian Dable was calling plays because he wasn't fully confident in the way that Daniel Jones was executing. Like he was trying to dial up these safe plays. I mean, because it seemed conservative. Our whole thing was pass the ball down the field. Oh, we're going to have a more explosive passing, pass the ball down the field. I think it was the 125-yard play to Malik Neighbors, and that's it. Other than that, it was all check downs or like.
That's right. I think I saw a stat. I think I saw a stat that only one ball flew out of Daniel Jones' hand for over 20 yards in the air, I think.
And I think that was that Malik Neighbors, that nice snag, which, by the way, was a nice snag by Malik Neighbors. It wasn't a perfect ball from Daniel Jones. Like nothing.
Correct.
There's nothing Daniel Jones did yesterday that makes you think, give him another shot. Like if they pulled him and put in Drew Lock next week, I'd honestly be more excited. Like I
think it's maybe that's what you should do. Hope you can coach up Drew Lock a little bit. I don't see like many. I don't know. I don't know how it changes. Even if you're taking Jones out because you're pissed at him, which a lot of people are. I get that. the issue that becomes, okay, we benched him, but I think you're also benching him because of good reason. I think I'd give him a little longer.
If he doesn't get hurt and we're not locked into his contract as well, so that's another reason why we correct. Because if we don't have faith in him, which I don't think we do.
I think you give him a little longer leash, maybe 4 games. I don't know. It's tough.
What if you throw Drew Lock in, and this is all hypothetical, so we won't go too into it. What if you throw Drew Lock in and it's against the Cowboys and it's against the Browns? if he doesn't look good there, then Dable looks even more screwed. So maybe you give Daniel Jones those 4
True.
more weeks.
True. Maybe you could also say, well, it's Drew Lock. It's a backup. We're playing good teams. Let's see what he does after that. But yeah, I mean, you're not wrong. It's a difficult situation. So ideally, you'd want to give Daniel Jones a little longer leash, I think. But in some ways, if what you just said is true, how the coaching can't coach the way they want because of the quarterback in there, that's a major red flag, and he
I
just
mean,
can't
that's how
play
it
anymore.
seems.
So
That's how it seemed because
yeah,
the whole game plan is throw the ball down the field, and maybe Daniel
how it
Jones
looks
just
too.
was avoiding those reads because he was scared. But if
Yeah,
if he's avoiding those reads and the play is designed to get Malik Nabors or Darius Slayton a deep deep downfield target, like you gotta get the ball to him, man.
yeah. I mean,
It's sad. It's disappointing as a Giants fan. Like, I mean, Giants fans are booing. They're leaving the game at halftime. It's
yes,
just, and I think those Century Reds. I feel bad for anybody who bought that jersey because this is the
I do
only time
too.
we're ever going to wear them, and it
I do
was
too.
like
They should get
probably
a
the historically
they should get a
terrible,
refund.
terrible game. And I actually kind of like the jerseys, but now it's null. It's null and void. I mean, the
Right.
jerseys are over. Um, let's move on to a more exciting loss for an NFC East team. Are you ready for that?
Sure.
All right, the
I,
Washington Commanders headed to
yeah.
Tampa Bay for the midday slot and lost 20-37 and made Baker Mayfield look kind of like an MVP candidate, I would say. And also, but on the flip side, Jayden Daniels, I think, was exciting, showed a lot of promise. He was fun to watch, and also scored a couple touchdowns himself. So let's
Yes.
let's break it down, Jeremy. Your instant thoughts on this game?
Well, Washington's defense, I don't think is very good, which is kind of an issue because you had good players last year. Chase Young, I think he was a good player.
Yeah,
Montez Sweat, and you traded them away, which I understood. You got draft picks, but like the guys that were good, they're not here anymore. And it just doesn't seem like if you're Washington with a rookie quarterback, I think we both think Daniels will be good going forward, but
yeah.
you need help on the other side of the ball too. And they didn't get that. It, you know, I think it's tough for Daniels to go in there, have the other team score 37 points, have their quarterback, who isn't like great, in my
Yeah.
opinion, look like this next second coming of Tom Brady and Baker Mayfield. Um, but I'll look at some of the stats too. I think
I'll
accurate.
tell you. Yeah, sorry,
Yeah,
sorry. You go.
no. Go ahead.
No. You were in the middle of something, and then I have something to follow. You finish your
Well,
thing, and
Daniels,
I'll come in.
he
Yeah,
it looks like he was, accurate with the football. Probably didn't throw as many times as you would have liked. 24, completed 17 passes, which I think is around. Oh no, not math. Uh,
that's like 75%, just about,
yeah,
right?
something like that.
Yeah,
Decent. I mean, that's great. But and he ran for like 90 yards too, which is awesome too. But I just don't think he has enough talent to throw to either. McLaurin's great, but
but
he
McLaurin wasn't even a factor in this game.
yeah,
That's the
he
thing.
had
I
some
mean,
few late catches, but didn't do much
yeah,
in the first beginning. Eckler, the leading receiver, not good. I mean, when your running backs are the leading receivers, and Eckler and Brian
Brian
Robinson
Robinson.
with a combined 7 catches between those two. And then Zach Ertz is the next leading ball catcher with 3.
Yeah,
Not good. I don't know. I think
it's
that
just not sustainable either. Like Jaden Daniels
oh
showed
yeah,
promise. He looked great rushing. He did not look great sliding. Like he looked healthy. It was ugly, but it's healthy. At least he's not running into those hits. But dude, the tumbles he was taking, I don't know if you.
yeah.
I mean, they were commenting on it. It just looked. He was doing like somersaults. He was like rolling
Yeah, I
over
don't
his
get
head.
it. I don't get it either. Like, I guess not everybody grew up playing baseball, but like, I don't know if you're a quarterback, learning how
I
to
think
slide should
sliding's
be
pretty
second
important.
nature.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but
But he's a big
regardless,
body too, so I guess
yeah,
those take they're weird sliding. But uh, yeah, if you're Washington, I don't know what you would if you expected to win. I think a lot of people are excited with Daniels, and it seems like they're going in the right direction. But I think this year is going to be a lot of growing pains for them, in my opinion. Maybe lesser competition they can beat up on more, but offense didn't seem like it had a rhythm throughout the entire game. The
mhm.
stats would suggest the same thing, I think, where it's just so bizarrely lopsided in who contributed, yardage, and whatnot. Yeah, you got to get Terry McLaurin more involved too. I mean,
Yeah.
he's bread and butter. He's going to be the best thing for Daniels, and 2 catches, 17 yards, end of the game doesn't cut it.
No, it does not. Like I said, it's just not a sustainable game plan either. Like when your running backs, your two running backs are your leading receivers, and your quarterback is
Yep.
your leading rusher. That's just not a key to success. There has to be a game plan to get Terry McLaurin more involved. Um, I also think so. The O line only let up 2 sacks, but that was also because Jayden Daniels was running it under pressure. Just like we said, he's not taking that
Yep.
time and scrambling in the pocket. No, he's beelining it. It was effective. It's effective, but it's
Yep.
not. But I think to take that to the next level, and it's his first start. Like we both said, I think he played really well. If I'm a Commanders fan, I'm excited with his performance.
Yeah.
But that's something that
Definitely.
moving forward he needs to take advantage of, and we'll see. Also, like we were talking about, the Bucs don't have the most amazing pass rush right now, as they had in years past. So
Mm.
we'll see how that goes moving forward. Hey, maybe the Giants pass rush will look better. Who knows? But it is good to see that Brian Robinson and Austin Eckler are kind of splitting the backfield with Brian Robinson as the lead rusher. But he looks good. And then defensively, like we said, every question mark that we had, the fact that their edge rushers are all like third best edge rushers on every single team. Cleveland Farrell
Yeah.
gets a sack. Nothing looks amazing there. And then Emmanuel
Secondary
Forbes.
still looks bad.
Yeah, Emmanuel Forbes looks terrible. He had that pass interference, face masks. He just looked out of place again. And that's why guys like Chris Godwin and Mike Evans ate.
Yeah.
I mean, they had tremendous games back. 4 passing touchdowns. Like that's just, it's not really. It's not what you want, especially with Dan Quinn as a defensive coach. And it just still makes me. Obviously, we've talked about this throughout the offseason, but I feel like they just put a bunch of band-aids on this defense with all
Oh
that
yeah.
cap space, and just it just doesn't make much sense to me. Like we said,
Right.
you let go 2 great pass rushers, and then you just signed these guys who had good athletic promise but no production, and have failed to have that production and rely on them. It's just I did
It's
see
weird because
Jamin Davis actually had a couple of pressures too. He didn't get any sacks, but him converting
yes.
to a pass, an edge, was interesting.
Yeah. They had, I think, if I'm not wrong, they had top 5 money going into free agency. And I think
Yeah,
the Band-Aid comment is pretty right, Sean. Um, they spent the money and they got some. I got some of the free agents are interesting. Like, I think Frankie Louvu, like, good, like,
yeah.
interesting
He's
means
somebody who
like
could be good for
young, someone who can play. But they also just signed a lot of guys that I thought were like, okay, you're giving them money, but like, long-term future doesn't seem like it's there. Their better days might be behind them. Bobby Wagner, in my opinion, yes, he's aged well, but I still have my questions there.
it's just not
Um,
hopeful as a Commanders fan. Like, yeah, if Bobby Wagner plays well for you this year, I mean, I
right,
guess like, but,
yes,
but like, what is it doing in building your team? You know what I'm saying?
right.
Like this is not a playoff team, so why are you have these aging vets to just have a stopgap?
I
Especially
agree.
Bobby Wagner. I guess maybe he's elevating your secondary, helping them grow, being like a solid unit in the center. But like that's the only real thought process I could have behind that.
Yeah, it seems like there are a lot of signs they made that would suggest that they're looking to win now, when that's clearly not the case.
Mm-mm.
Um, Yeah, like I said, growing. This is a team that I think is going to have a lot of growing pains this year, and hopefully, if they're able to hit the ground running next year, maybe in 2 years, be competitive. So,
Yeah,
the NFL's great. You can turn around an NFL team within a year, no
yeah.
questions asked. But it's tough to get there. I think the draft picks are they need to hit, and the drafting has to be there like we think it will be. But yeah, they. I was surprised how beat down they were on Sunday.
And it's just, I mean, like it's already over. It doesn't matter. But like even like the Jahan Dotson thing, like year
Yeah,
three, like one of your young, like core players giving up on him before the season even starts. Just
yeah.
it doesn't make much sense to me.
Who's
Anything else you
pretty
want to talk about?
who's
Yeah,
dirt
for
cheap
nothing
too
too.
for Washington. Like,
Yeah,
I don't know. That's why like I don't love giving up on guys too. Where I've always said like
it's not like
you
he's
don't
Kadarius
have to.
Stoney. You know, Jahan Dotson, by all accounts, is a good human being, and like
Right, right. Yeah. So I don't get it, but they're trying to change the culture in DC with Quinn and Peters. I think Peters could be good coming from San Francisco, but there's always something. It always seems like there's something in the waters in Washington that prevents greatness from being great. So something to monitor throughout the year and see if they progress.
yeah. All right, and then last but not least, the Dallas Cowboys go into
Yes.
Cleveland and absolutely dominate the Browns. And I will apologize right now because we both picked the Browns winning and we were wrong. And also, it
Yes.
seems like all the optimism that the Cowboys had in the offseason through the first game looks like they were correct with. The running tack, I think Zeke, I also made the prediction no running back is going to average 4 yards a carry. I think Zeke actually looked pretty solid. As like, I mean, if you're saying that Devin Singletary plays a solid role in the Giants offense, not
Right.
really elevating, but playing a solid role, I think Zeke does that in that Cowboys offense. I don't think Dak had the best game,
Right.
but their dominant defense is really what won that game. I mean, it just an unreal performance. Eric Kendricks, who we were, I wouldn't say mocking, but like considering that was their only free agent pickup, it seemed just a little weak. But he had a game, 2 sacks, the interception off of Micah Parsons' deflection, 9 total tackles, and then DeMarvion Overshone, who's their third-round pick that got hurt last year, stepped in at linebacker, had an amazing game for his first,
Mhm.
official regular season game. And Micah Parsons was a defensive MVP player, as he usually is. Trayvon Diggs comes back, returns to form with another interception. I mean, that defense, and they just made Deshaun Watson look even worse than he even is. I'll let you instant thoughts, Jeremy. What do you think about this game and the Cowboys?
Yeah, Dallas certainly smacked the Browns in Cleveland, no doubt about it. Um, I do think uh, it's easy to say now, but Deshaun Watson just is not a good quarterback. So
Well, he
I
got
think
paid.
that
That's something I didn't even. That's a
he
huge
got
story
paid guaranteed.
for the game. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah, so that
yeah.
is something. And that's something I think the NFL is going to look into going forward.
Hmm.
Um, but yeah, I don't know. It's tough. I feel like I shouldn't have had that much confidence in the Browns. Their defense is all time. It's supposedly certainly didn't look that way against
Hmm.
Dallas. Dallas didn't really run the ball that well. I don't think they will throughout the year, but unless they make a change. But
Hmm.
yeah, the offense was good for the Cowboys, and the Browns just didn't give you anything offensively because they're obviously waiting for Chubb to get healthy. But it's even more than that. It's just if you're the Browns, you just can't have Deshaun Watson leading the chart. It's just bad.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have
Oh,
Amari. Yeah,
it's not good. I mean,
you have
like I'm
Joku,
upset
but
about the Daniel Jones thing, but I think I'd be more upset, especially when you see Baker Mayfield having the performance like he did. I think
right,
that's a huge storyline for everybody. But I mean, the Browns too. I mean, they, they put up 17 points, but those were all garbage time points. I mean, they were down 27 to
right,
3
right.
halfway into the third quarter.
Mm-hmm.
And Jerome Ford too. His like the Cowboys held them. And I think they were playing prevent defense at the end, and allowed the short stuff, which has
Yeah.
allowed Jerome Ford to kind of get moving at the end. But Jerome Ford was a non-factor throughout most of that game too.
Yeah.
And like we already said, Deshaun Watson couldn't do pretty much anything. But yeah, I mean the Cowboys, the preview pod where I was like, I don't think they're going to get to that. Like the way their defense played, the pieces they have on offense. Yes, they don't have like a Brandon Cooks played well. He got a touchdown, but he's not,
Early on. Yep.
a big wide receiver 2 name at this point in his career. I mean, I think he could still have 1,000 yards, but their defense, I mean, their defense is top 5 by far, even with Duron playing out too. And Kalen Carson actually didn't have a bad game too, which was one of the question marks that we had going into it. And then speaking of the other rookies that they relied on, Tyler Guyton didn't play too bad. I think he led up one sack with Myles Garrett, and I think Cooper Beebe allowed that Dalvin Tomlinson sack pretty early in the game. Ex-Giant, go Dalvin Tomlinson. But, I mean, they performed pretty well against a really good defensive line. As in a first game performance, I guess all this hype around Tyler Guyton looks all right. We'll see, but, I mean, you're playing against Defensive Player of the Year, Myles Garrett, and you allow one sack. Not too bad for the start of your career.
Yeah, Dak got rocked on that Tomlinson hit early on in the game. Yeah, I'm sure he's still out though. I just don't.
Yeah, I mean it's week 1. It's overreaction, but it's a good
it's an
start.
impressive. It is an impressive win, especially when a lot of people thought the Browns would win and they thought the Browns would cover too, big time. So it is impressive how they did that, and you have to note that. I just think like from the start they realized Deshaun Watson's really bad. Let's take advantage. So,
yeah.
And I guess defense early on. I think that one touchdown to Cooks on that third down, that kind of like fade, kind of shook that defense in a way, because this probably shouldn't have happened. And I don't know, maybe that just turned things around completely. But weird. They got punched in the mouth hard. We'll see how they rebound, try to win the AFC North. But Dallas, they marched in there and they took care of business. And even if we gave the Browns too much credit going in, which I think everybody did, they certainly, you still have to perform, and they did.
And then Kevontae Turpin, man, what a beautiful punt. I mean, hey, that's like punt return, kick returns, love it. And Turpin, he's like that explosive type of guy. Like he's just a return specialist. But and then Brandon Aubrey's just like automatic, man. Just automatic with these field goals. He's just so
that
he's
is wild.
He's a cheat code.
Yeah.
I think that they should have tried to let him break the record this game too, but is what it is. I'm sure there's going to be an opportunity somewhere in the season, probably against the Giants, where like they just
maybe
get him down. He tries to get it. They're like, oh yeah, we got to stop, and then like a 70-yard field goal from Brandon Aubrey.
It'll be interesting it'll be interesting as the weather gets colder, the wind starts to move a little quicker, and how the kicking will go. But yeah, he is quite the leg. Yeah. He's always accurate. It's always dead on. It's dead center.
Man. It's crazy that like he just slipped through the cracks too.
And I think he benefits. I definitely think he benefits from kicking at A&T Stadium. Don't get me wrong, because of the dome and everything of that aspect. But oh my God, he has a range, and it's just wild. Everything is pure.
Yeah, and I know what's actually crazy is like the only team with a win in the AFC North is the Pittsburgh Steelers, who everybody predicted to be the worst team, and that was a pretty shocking game against the Falcons, which we'll get into because that's your matchup with the Eagles on Monday night. Anything else you want to talk about the Cowboys before we do a little fantasy recap? Or
I don't think so. I think a little surprised, but also not too surprised because I just don't believe in the Browns too. And we've seen, as much as I hate Dallas, every year they're decently competitive enough in their own way. Some years more than others, but they don't seem to have bad years. So, yeah.
And I'll tell you what.
The result isn't as surprising to me. Yeah.
And I think the Mike Zimmer defense did not skip a beat compared to the Dan Quinn defense.
Yeah,
Mike
maybe.
Zimmer has always been like a great defensive mind. And I'll tell you what, Eric Kendricks has been his guy, and Eric Kendricks looked like prime Eric Kendricks. And also
Yes.
Overshown playing great as you know, Zimmer has always had good linebacker play. I think he really has elevated those guys.
Nothing like having linebackers get to the quarterbacks and sacks. That's a nice little thing to attribute to them. Yep.
Yeah, especially in this era where I feel like there's less blitzing off-ball linebacker. You know, like traditional off-ball.
Oh yeah,
like Kendricks. All right. So our first week of the fantasy best ball is in. Jeremy, do you have any predictions on who won this one?
I'm going to say myself, but I have no idea.
All right. That is true. You blew me out of the water. This is best ball, so we both drafted NFC East players. My team, my starting team, so we picked the best performer at quarterback, 2 running back slots, 2 wide receiver slots, tight end slot, and 1 flex. So my quarterback, Jayden Daniels, put up 28.16. This is in a standard half-point PPR. Austin Eckler put up Austin Eckler as my RB1 put up 8.2 fantasy points. Devin Singletary as RB2 put up 7.2. AJ Brown, thank you AJ Brown, put up 20.4. CD Lamb, a little quiet, put up 11.1. Jake Ferguson, which by the way, I feel like a lot of fantasy tight ends just really underperformed this week. Jake Ferguson put up 3. Yeah. Also, that's another thing to know. I guess Jake Ferguson sprained the MCL. But he's week to week. He might even play next week. So that is the most recent update on that. Malik Neighbors, 9.1 points in my flex. And that is a total of 87.16 points. Jeremy, your team, on the other hand, Jalen Hurts, 18.42 points. Saquon Barkley, 32.2 points. Brian Robinson Jr., 16.4 points. Devonta Smith, 11.9. Brandon Cooks, 12.5. The fact that Brandon Cooks is your wide receiver 2 and you smoked me. Dallas Goedert, 5.1. And Ezekiel Elliott in your flex with 11.9. And you scored 108 points, 108.42. So you beat me by over 20 points. Which I don't know.
Brandon Cooks really my wide receiver too?
Yeah, man. Well, the touchdown, 12.5, yeah.
Oh, God. I don't love that. Jeez.
Yeah, Darius Slayton didn't do much for you. I think I'm trying to think of the other wide receivers that you had. But, yeah, I went through there and picked out the best. There was a lot of suboptimal performances by our bench.
Oh, yes.
I don't know why Noah Brown, I picked him. So I don't know what was up with that. Hopefully you'll play moving forward. But, yeah, not the greatest. Yeah, we got to figure out some I got to take a shot next time or something. Or
I was thinking something like that. That works.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'll save that for next episode.
Okay.
But preview pods, the first game of the week. Well, let's start with the exciting one here. It's the Giants versus Commanders, and I believe that is the first game, 1 p.m. Eastern. Both starting off the season 0-1.
Yes.
Both showing deficiencies on, both showing deficiencies, I think, in the secondary and also just defensively. Like I said, if Daniel Jones wants a chance at continuing to be the Giants starter, he needs to take advantage of this Washington defense like the Washington Commanders, like the Buccaneers did against the Commanders. And he needs to be more explosive. I mean, pick on Emmanuel Forbes, get the ball out more decisively. There's no pass rush, so not a serious pass rush with this Washington Commanders. Probably the worst pass rush you're going to be facing all year, aside from maybe the Panthers. So you have to take advantage of that. You have to take time in the pocket. You have to get those deep throws down that were emphasized in the offseason. If we're going to do it at any time of the season, now would be the best time because you're going to be struggling with the Cowboys and Browns moving forward. So if you want to get that action going, it's now. Washington offensively, I think, can also be taking advantage of some of the Giants deficiencies, specifically in the secondary. Maybe you can get Terry McLaurin more involved, take advantage of the matchup with Deontay Banks, and I think defensively for the Giants, like I said, you got Brandon Coleman for the Washington Commanders at left tackle. I think Brian Burns and Kayvon Thibodeau should be taking advantage of this D line. I think that let's get a sack from somebody other than Dexter Lawrence. Let's get more than one sack this game, please. And let's contain Jayden Daniels. Jeremy, your thoughts on this Commanders-Giants game?
Comes down to offense. Comes down to whichever offense wants it more, I think. Obviously, we know that the Giants have a lot of deficiencies in offense because of their quarterback. It kind of seems like Washington does too in different ways. Receiver-wise, they don't have many playmakers. McLaurin's great and can help, but a little discouraged that he was able to get involved week one. I think that changes, but I'd rather see him start off hot and solidify that part of the receiving game a little bit from the beginning. I don't know. Yeah, I think offensively, whoever clicks more and just seems to be going through the motions better, I will win the game. I think Washington's defense is bad. I think the Giants' defense is better, so that helps too in the Giants' favor. But after Sunday watching the Giants, I can't give anything to them right now because of watching that Minnesota game, which is tough because otherwise I think I'd probably be leaning towards the Giants. But I think it just has to come down to offense, who wants it more, who's going to move the ball more methodically, more systematically, better overall. And yeah.
Yeah, I think the key to the Giants is Daniel Jones being able to it is in Washington. The spread is Washington minus 2.5, which I think is more than fair. The over-under is at 43.5. I think the key is that Daniel Jones needs to be decisive. He needs to take risks because
throw the ball downfield.
He's throwing interceptions even when he's panicked. So take some more risks. If Malik Neighbors has one-on-one coverage, throw him the ball. That's what he asked for in preseason. It showed when he did take advantage of that one-on-one coverage with Malik Neighbors. We need to see Malik involved. I don't know, maybe score a touchdown. That'd be pretty nice, huh? How would we score a touchdown against a struggling Commanders defense that allowed 4 touchdown passes from Baker Mayfield? Anything else for this game, Jeremy? Who do you have and the spread here?
Washington's minus 2.5.
Yes.
I guess I'll take Washington at 2.5. They're home. Fair. I don't know. It's kind of a weird note. Yeah, I guess. I don't want to think about it anymore because I don't know.
Yeah, it's a toss up. I wouldn't even really put. This is a game that you don't touch because you don't know. Really
exactly. This is something where it's like you can think about this game for hours in a disturbed way. Yep.
Yeah. It's two tortured fan bases, but at least one of them has a little bit more optimism in their quarterback. I am going to pick the Giants here because I think that Brian Daboll is going to take offense to how awful everything went week one, and I think that he is going. I think he's going to, people are already questioning his play calling. I think he's going to scheme up a lot of stuff, get a win, get the Giants looking somewhat, competitive. Yeah. So we'll see. But that is that on that game. And the next game going in is also the Cowboys playing at the 1:00 slot at home opener for the Cowboys. The Saints are marching in to AT&T Stadium, coming off a big win against the Carolina Panthers. So Cowboys look like they have one of the best defenses in the league, and the Panthers look like they have one of the worst, and the Saints took advantage of that. It's going to be a much different game for the Saints. Let me pull up the spread here. It is Cowboys minus 6.5, and honestly, I will punch that. I'm thinking Cowboys minus 6.5. I think Derek Carr might turn back into a pumpkin with an actual pass rush coming from, Micah Parsons, Tank Lawrence, who had a great game last game too, and if Eric Kendricks and Overshown have performances like they did, and if the secondary has performances like they did, I don't see why the Cowboys won't destroy this game. I think what I'm looking for, because the Saints do have a really good defense still, that's one of their strengths, is how Dak Prescott handles that. Because, honestly, like the Browns have a good defense, but he didn't look amazing. So I'm curious to see. I want to see more CeeDee Lamb too, because he had a great game, but he didn't have like a top 5 wide receiver in the league game
Correct.
against the Browns. So against these Saints. Jeremy, your thoughts on this game?
I think so again, not the best where you're picking either, where you could see both happening. Obviously, I could see Dallas covering and playing a complete game against a Saints team that I don't think is just that good. 6.5 is a big number, though. The Saints are riding high. They do have to go to Dallas, but it's such a big number. I think the Saints ultimately cover, but I think Dallas wins.
Yeah, that's fair. Key players that you're looking for in this matchup?
It'll be interesting to see just how the run game goes with Dallas going forward. With Zeke and whoever else they trot out there. I'll also go. I'm with you, CD. I want to see a breakout game from him. Considering there isn't much going on receiving wise, especially if Ferguson is out for a little bit. You do have Cooks, but he's just he's obviously much lesser than CeeDee Lamb at this point, and not much going on with the running back room either there. So I think CD at home opener on that new contract, could be something there for week 2.
All right. And the last but not least, we have Monday Night Football, Battle of the Birds. We have Atlanta coming into Philadelphia, with the Eagles coming in at 6.5-point favorites and over under of 48. Jeremy, I'll let you lead off here. What are you looking for in this game? What are your thoughts? What are the keys to victory? Who are you watching?
Looking for a more smooth offense from the Eagles. I like that they were able to run motion against the Packers a lot. And they use Will Shipley actually a lot, as they use 21 personnel with Willis, the second running back. But didn't see that all last year. Out of the 6 plays that did it, 5 of them worked, as they were moving the ball forward and positive plays. I'm looking for explosive offense from the Eagles, more downfield plays, more plays like we saw from in the early second half from Jalen to A.J. Brown on that big 67-yard touchdown. We'll see a little of that. Want to see maybe some of that to Devontae Smith too down the field. And then maybe just as a whole for the Eagles defense, Jalen Carter maybe getting a sack, getting to the quarterback, pressures, a few defensive ends, getting some sacks here and there. Josh Sweat, maybe Bryce Huff too. It's just some playmaking from the Eagles. I want to see some interceptions, maybe poke a ball out, jump on a fumble. I want to see turnovers for this team because I think they're a great team, but they're going to have to get the ball and turn it over on the other team, because that's how you win games going forward, and that's what great teams do. They take the ball away. So I'd love to see some playmaking out of the Eagles' defense this week and get multiple turnovers. Plus would be turnovers on the Atlanta side of the field, even around the 20-yard line into the end zone.
All right. I think something that we saw against the Steelers, which I think was a shock. I think everybody had been hyping the Falcons all offseason. Kirk Cousins, Drake London's going to finally have a quarterback. Drake London did absolutely nothing in that game. I think he had 2 catches for 15 yards. Bijan Robinson became the primary back, which people are excited about. Tyler Algier is obviously still there.
Right.
One thing that is of note is that Arthur Smith his offense was a little shaky.
Oh,
He
yeah.
didn't get the ball to his playmakers, but the way that he had that rapid face and that run-heavy offense, he kind of protected that O-line. And while he was there, Atlanta's offensive line was ranked one of the highest.
Yeah.
Gone. And then you see with the Steelers team, like that's one of the reasons why the Falcons struggled so much, is because their O-line was getting decimated. And the Steelers pass rush, which is I'd say a top 5 pass rush in the league, took advantage of it. Now, I think that goes to show that this is what your Eagles defense needs after not really getting to the passer that much last week.
Yeah.
Get these guys involved, get Nolan Smith involved, get Josh Sweat involved, get Bryce Huff, finally get his first sack as an Eagle, and just kind of take advantage of this.
I think it's a week. I think it's a week.
O-line.
It's a week to do it too, because Kirk Cousins is just not mobile right now, coming off of the injury and whatnot. So everything seems like it's aligning well for that to happen. I thought overall against the Packers, the pressure was decentish, which is good, but I think the field also played to some of it not be slipping. But gotta keep up the pressure even a little more and finish off with sacks, close in the pressures more. So yeah.
Yeah. And Atlanta didn't actually allow a touchdown in that game either. That was all
Correct.
6 field goals by Boswell. So I think that Atlanta defense is a good defense. Like they have a lot of good pieces.
They've paid for it.
Great.
Yeah.
Justin Simmons is great. They have the 2 best safety, probably the best safety combo in the league, I'd say, with just.
Oh yeah, by far, I would think.
Yeah. They've
partly because
a little bit an edge rusher.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's we'll see, but I think the Eagles cover that spread, and I give the Eagles -6.5. Even though the Falcons are my second favorite team, it's also second favorite teams don't really exist, to be honest. Not when you're a diehard.
That's true. Yeah, I think the Eagles cover too. But I've seen crazy things before.
Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about with this Eagles before we wrap this thing up, Jeremy?
I don't think so, no.
All right. Well, if you're still watching, like and subscribe. If we said anything that you think is absurd or completely wrong, or if we're just a bunch of idiots that are wasting our time, comment it. Let us know. Or if you think that we're really smart and we had some really good takes, comment that too. Like it. Just comment. Comment it up. Like it. Subscribe. Tell us how great we are. Tell us how terrible we are. And thank you for watching. And we will be back next week with another recap and preview. So stay tuned. Peace.